Bitcoin is going to 1 million, Bitcoin is going to 10 million, and 0.1 Bitcoin will be super, super great for you. We will look in 100, 200 years and say, this is the point where everything changed financially. How free are you? Can you transact in your money without asking for permissions? That's how genius of an invention the Bitcoin protocol is. We need more people that run a node. We need 1 million nodes, 2 million nodes, 4 million nodes. If you have 5 Bitcoin, get to 10. If you have 500 Bitcoin, maybe you can relax, but get to 1,000 Bitcoin. A society after Bitcoin will never be the same. All price prediction of like what will be 1 Bitcoin worth one day will be true. It's just a matter of when.
Today, I'm excited to welcome Robin Seyr back to the podcast. Robin is an Austrian Bitcoiner and host of the only daily Bitcoin podcast, showing us how proof of work is really done. Robin won't shut up about Bitcoin until it's money for everyone. Guten Tag, Robin.
Guten Tag. I was surprised you know German. I think I wrote you on some messaging app something in German unexpectedly, and you're like, "Oh, I understand that." I was like, "Wow! Like, how do you know German?" But great to be back on the show. It's been a pleasure, and you are one of the first shows that had me on now a second time. So I'm really honored, and thank you so much for having me on.
Well, you inspired me to start my show, and I'm really grateful for that. I have been told that I inspired Stacy to start the Bitcoin Nova, Dr. Satoshi, Nurse Hoddle, the Great Reassessment. All started partly because I inspired them, and then also Brunbitty to start a space on X. So it's funny how we get inspired and then many other people pass the message on. So I just love that. And I wanted to ask you first why you quit your job and went all in on Bitcoin.
And by the way, Stacy is great. Dr. Satoshi is also great. And Nurse Hoddle, I think I've been, I had all 3 of them on or was on their show with different people, different things. So they're all great people. Only the last one I hadn't heard about. And this is the great thing about Bitcoin. And before I get into the story of why I'm doing this full time, I just want to get this thing out of the way. There are 3 main pillars of Bitcoin, what you actually get when you have Bitcoin. And that's something I'm really passionate about. And we just talked about the last pillar, and what we're doing with MICROSEED is kind of the second pillar. And the first pillar just starts with if you have Bitcoin, you will be wealthy. Like if you hold on to your Bitcoin and you hold whatever amount of Bitcoin, 0.1, 0.01, whatever the amount of Bitcoin you will have. If you have UTXOs in 2025, you will be wealthy in 2035. Almost in every country, in almost every situation. People have different definitions of wealthy, but in my definition of wealthy, you will be a very wealthy individual. Then we have the second pillar of Bitcoin. This is kind of the freedom aspect of how free are you? How can you transact in your money without asking for permissions? And this is a weird thing that we have to declare that, because if I work for a financial energy, I get purchasing power. Why do I have to ask a third party, who do I give it to? Like this should be only my decision. Like, why is there even a third party involved in that decision? So this is the main thing with the second one. And you have to run your own node. You have to take self-custody, all of those things in order to actually take advantage of the second pillar. And then the third pillar, and that's why I bring it up, because this is the pillar that most people overlook, and only a few actually are doing that, is being in the community. And not everyone has to run their own podcast or has to write a book or has to create content, even though I deeply encourage everyone to do that because it's extremely rewarding. Outside of the monetary aspect, I created content 1.5 years completely for free. Haven't earned a single euro 1.5 years from that. I mean, if you start from the very start, it was even 4 years, but from the actual start where I took it serious, it was 1.5 years. And it is so rewarding because of the community, of the mindset, of the proof of work, of the energy that you get from there. Being someone that sits and listens to a podcast and gets the learning is already amazing. You are ahead of 99.9% of the people here. But if you want to go a step forward and you have exposure to Bitcoin, you have exposure in self-custody in Bitcoin, you run your own node, you are in the very, very small percentage of people that do a great job. If you want to take it a little bit further, go ahead and join a local meetup. That was my first step. My first step was not a podcast. My first step was going to a local meetup and meeting people and asking them, oh, what is up with Bitcoin? Or how are you looking at that? And all of those things. I think local meetups in your local town are extremely underrated. You meet like-minded people that live in the same city as you, and you can talk with them. It's amazing. And beyond that, you can then also go ahead and maybe tweet about it, maybe write some articles, maybe write a long article, maybe even start some video format, start a TikTok, start a YouTube channel, whatever you want to do with content creation is totally up to you. And you don't have to dox yourself. Like you can be totally anonymous, because people always say like, oh, I want my privacy. Yeah, then don't tell people your name and don't show them the face. Like you're private at that point. So this is my three main pillars of Bitcoin. The first is just like the wealth aspect. Most people are interested in it because it's the top of the funnel. And you also said in the beginning, you are not as focused on price. You're more focused on the freedom and sovereignty, which is amazing and which we should be. But there's an underrated value in the price aspect, because this is what gets people hooked. This is where we get people to actually pay attention to Bitcoin. If we only talk about, core versus knots and what is the best metal stamping device and like all those things, nobody that has no Bitcoin will click on those videos. We will just we will just entertain each other with those videos. So we do need videos and content pieces and educational pieces that serve the top of the funnel. That's why I say, yeah, Bitcoin is going to 1 million, Bitcoin is going to 10 million, and 0.1 Bitcoin will be super, super great for you. Because maybe with that, it plays to your greedy inner self. And maybe because of that, you get to the freedom aspect, and maybe you get to the community aspect. And all of a sudden you realize, yeah, it's actually not that important that Bitcoin is going to 1 million, even though it is. So this is my main 3 pillars. Answering your actual question with why I quit my job is partly of that, just because I realized, oh shit, like I have to be part of that Bitcoin community, of that Bitcoin sphere. But it was also just because I'm lucky and Jeff Booth talked to me while I had already my podcast. I don't know, like I did 1.5 years of Twitter before I started my podcast. Then I did my podcast. And at that point, I had Jeff Booth on my podcast, and I still didn't earn anything from my podcast, even though I had Jeff Booth on my podcast. And he just said something at the end of the show, because the previous guest asked the question, okay, what do you recommend to young people, something like that. And he said, if you're a young person right now and you understand the value proposition of Bitcoin, like why are you still spending your actual personal energy in the fiat world and not in the Bitcoin world? Why are you not going to the Bitcoin world? Why are you not going to be the next founder of the great Bitcoin startup, the next big podcaster, moderator, whatever in Bitcoin? And this hit really home with me. And then I had afterwards a long walk, actually. This was already planned with my dog. The dog always wanted to have a walk after the podcast episode. And I just thought about it. Why am I still, like, I'm 25 years old. I have nothing to lose. Like, I don't have kids or a wife that I have to take care of or anything like that. If I have no income, it's totally up to me, and it only screws up me, which I'm fine with. So this was one major reason that kind of triggered me into, I have to do this, and I should get started with that. So this was my very long-winded answer in why I'm all in and fully into Bitcoin.
Well, I love that you started with the 3 pillars. That's really important. Hey there. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help me grow the channel. Want to sleep easy? MICROSEED lets you stamp your seed phrase onto a small steel washer. Buy the device once and use it forever. I love it. It's discreet, precise, and easy to transport. Get yours below. For peace of mind with collaborative custody, the Bitcoin Advisor is a trusted team who can also help with inheritance planning. Just scan the QR code or use the link below. And check out these super cool SATOSHOEs with over 40 styles to choose from. Plus 10% off with my link below. Now, back to the show. Yeah, that Jeff Booth inspired you. He inspires many of us. And, you know, it just makes me wonder, I'm sure you don't regret doing that, right?
And nobody ever asked me that, actually. No, I don't regret doing it. My life is not only more free. The only thing that hasn't changed is the money aspect, because all extra money I just reinvest in the podcast, in other businesses. So I don't earn anything more. I'm like, that always has been kind of the same. But what has changed is the freedom aspect, that I can now, and this obviously, this is not just Bitcoin. This is just the normal step from being an employed person, from doing self-employment, and then going slowly into entrepreneurship. So this has been a major development, and this might just be a whole nother podcast talking about the different stages of being an employed person and then going through that mindset shift of all of a sudden you're working for yourself and you're creating a job for yourself. And then the next step for me was like, I'm creating jobs for other people, because now I have three other people working on the podcast. And with MICROSEED, we have a whole different venture now where we are three people that work on a whole different thing. But the main thing is why I don't regret it is because I do something I'm genuinely interested in. Just today, it doesn't happen that much, but literally just today, I woke up at, what was it, 3:30, 4 a.m. in the morning, because I was just too excited to get starting with work. Like, there was some open questions I had yesterday in the evening, and I was like, oh shit, like, how is that? And then I saw in 3:30, 4 in the morning, those questions just came up in my mind. I was like, oh, let's just do that right now, because I can sleep later. I can go ahead and sleep at 11 a.m. again, because I have that freedom. So the freedom aspect and doing something I'm actually passionate about, I'm actually excited about, is amazing, also dangerous. I only have talked about that on the Orange Peel podcast with Nick a little bit, but I had some, not falling out, but like I tested my limits of how much I can work. And how much my body can also work. And I went through that whole journey. And that's why I went to the journey of being someone that creates jobs, so I can have a little less pressure on me. If only one person is working on a project, it's a lot of pressure for one person. If 3-4 people are working on a project, it's the pressure is kind of divided on many heads. And so yeah, overall, I not only not regret it, I would also encourage my younger self, just do it earlier. Like, why did you wait so long?
That's amazing, Robin. Well, I think I said it before, but you definitely are an old soul, because you're so young and you have a lot of vision, and you still have a long way to go. And I know that part of why you're in Bitcoin is because you mentioned this to me, that Bitcoin is a paradigm shift and a fork in the road of civilization. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, this is something I realized with the podcast. It's a lot of people ask, okay, what is Bitcoin? And I started explaining Bitcoin in that way because it makes you understand how big this whole shift could be. If you tell someone, if my uncle comes here and says like, oh, like, why should I care about Bitcoin? I could say, yeah, because it goes up a lot. Having that pillar one, saying like, yeah, like, you can prevent inflation to be something bad for you. It can actually be something good for you because it plays into your asset and therefore it goes up over time. Maybe another uncle is more on the freedom side, and I can tell him, oh, I can get with Bitcoin to anyone and the government cannot hold me back from transacting with someone else. Or I can be debanked tomorrow, but nobody can debank me from Bitcoin. And this argument, I was like, that's always in the details. Like, we always explain Bitcoin in the small details where this is an advantage. It's like explaining the iPhone that you can shoot a video with it. Like, that's not the iPhone. Yes, you can shoot a video with it, but that's the foundational invention of the iPhone, how it changed all our lives. And we first walked around like that, and now we're walking around like that. Like, it changed something foundational in human civilization. And there are many different foundational inventions, I call them. And the iPhone, by the way, is not such a thing. It's a product and not a foundational invention. Foundational invention was, for example, the internet, electricity, the telegraph, the steam engine, the printing press, the fire or wheel. I mean, you could even make the argument printing press and steam engine is kind of a product, but it was such a foundational product that it was almost a foundational invention. But fire and wheel is an astonishing comparison. I love comparing Bitcoin to the wheel, because the wheel hasn't changed in forever. I don't even know when the wheel was first kind of, like, nice, you can make the round thing and you can transport things. This is a foundational invention that has been here forever and will be probably here forever. And the same way I see with Bitcoin, it's such an foundational invention with digital scarcity and with having, for the first time ever, sound money that nobody can corrupt. This is what I mean, that Bitcoin is a paradigm shift, a fork in the road. It's the society after Bitcoin will never be the same. We will look in 100, 200 years, people will look back at the time 2009 and say, this is the point where everything changed financially. Right this year was the point where everything changed for the better. And this is kind of why I'm thinking Bitcoin is the fork in the road of human civilization, because it has this foundational layer, this foundational force to it.
Yeah, it really does. And I like that you pointed out that there are many different ways to orange pill people, because I really came for number go up because I had pain in my life and I was looking for a solution. So yeah, I came for that reason, but not everybody is in the same place, I suppose. Well, what do you think will make more people see that Bitcoin is the solution?
I think Saylor puts it so amazing when he says people will get Bitcoin when they have a need to know about it. And the pain that you described on the pillar 1 again with the wealth, many people have that on the pillar 2. I just had BJ Dichter on from the Honking for Freedoms, from the Freedom Convoy 2020, from the Canadian trucker protest on. And this kind of showed me that there are people that are actually affected by the monetary policies of the central bank, of the governments, of whoever, and they are affected by their policies. And that's why they are like searching for an alternative. If you're getting debanked, if a transaction that you did to an organization that you wanted to help is all of a sudden seized by the government, you're like, how can we prevent that? Yeah, it's Bitcoin and nothing else. Like, in the digital world, there's only Bitcoin. Yes, you can have a small gold coin and give it to a person that also does the trick, but it's physical and it's like kind of hard to cover up and stuff like that. And if I always make that hard example because it shows how powerful Bitcoin is. If someone shows up to your house and holds a gun to your head and says, give me your gold, you have the choice of giving him his gold or not. If you don't give it to him, he shoots you and just takes the gold. The gold is gone at that point. And with Bitcoin, you have the choice of having it for yourself without having it to bury it somewhere with a treasure map. Like, of course, you can also do that with gold and have a treasure map and dig it somewhere in, like, you can hide gold. I'm not into that game, and probably most people won't ever do that. But I give you that. You can also have a treasure map and like hide it somewhere and like not tell anyone. But with Bitcoin, you can do that in a very simple way. You can do even time delays where you cannot even spend it. They can come home to your home. They can put a gun to your head, and not even if you wanted to, you could spend the Bitcoin. That's how genius of an invention the Bitcoin protocol is. And I say it more and more often. The reason why people don't see Bitcoin is there are three reasons for me. There is the reason that someone doesn't have the need to know. So they are living without pain in the financial sense. And that's okay. Like they don't need to know about Bitcoin right now. And those are not the people that I'm very passionate about orange pilling, because they will get it. If they don't have any financial pain, they're in a very good place right now. They will get it anyways at some point. Then there are those people that do have a financial pain. And those I'm very passionate about it because they really need it. And even those who have a need to know sometimes don't really know about Bitcoin. They know about it, but they don't really know about Bitcoin. And those are the really hard ones and the heartbreaking ones also sometimes, because you can see how they need it. You can see how they would benefit from it. And they just have those 1-2 lines from the mainstream media in them saying, Bitcoin is speculative and you can lose all your money. And if someone is in a financial pain and some trusted authorities tells you you could lose all your money with that asset, that sounds scary. That sounds really scary. I hate that because it just simply isn't true. I mean, to the extent it is true with everything. Whatever you do, you could lose it all. You can lose all your money with gold, with Bitcoin, with ETFs, with stocks, with real estate. There's no asset where you can't lose purchasing power or financial energy because of exterior or maybe interior problems. And the point is really, you can explain Bitcoin in different ways, but the best way is probably the way that makes the most sense for the person in front of you, because some might be on the freedom aspect and some might be on the wealth aspect. Some might be even on the community aspect. I saw this myself where when I take people to conferences that are not that into Bitcoin, but they have some Bitcoin, they are blown away how amazing this community is. They're blown away how nice and kind and healthy it is. Like, go to a Bitcoin conference. You will see a lot of healthy individuals. It's unbelievable for me when I compare the IT security conferences that I was in my previous job and the Bitcoin conferences. The average weight drops. It was crazy for me to see. So there's no answer for all of them, but most of the people will come with number go up technology with, hey, I have 0.1 Bitcoin and it will be one big house one day and I can retire on it. Those are the topics that people are really interested in. And those are the topics that will probably also perform the best when it comes to orange pilling people.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that was my very next question, because you've talked about it already here, but you often say that owning one Bitcoin can make someone wealthy. Even those who cannot own one Bitcoin, 0.1 Bitcoin, which is around $11,000 today, with Bitcoin around 113,000, will be generational wealth. Why are you so sure of that?
So first of all, I have to put some nuance to that, because if you talk with someone in India and you tell them, I have 10,000 euros for you, they sometimes don't earn that in 4 years. And there's probably someone listening that has a monthly salary of 15,000 euros. And so generational wealth and wealth in general is highly subjective. Some people say 1 million euros would be amazing to have, and some people like 1 million euros dollars is laughable and is nothing. You can't do anything with that. Both are probably a little bit wrong and a little bit right. So with that just being out of the way, if we look at, and I think you also come from real estate, if I remember correctly, we have this great chart of how much Bitcoin it was once taking to buy a home. an average US home. And we had in the very beginning, I think in 2011, if I remember correctly, it took 400,000 Bitcoin to buy an average home. Then we had 2017, I think it was around 300 Bitcoin. So it dropped drastically. Now from 300 Bitcoin to an average home, now we're down to 4 Bitcoin, 4.56, something like that, depending on the price. When I tell people we came down from 400,000 to 300 Bitcoin to 4 Bitcoin, why do you think we stop now? In 5-10 years time, with 0.1 Bitcoin, you will be able to buy a home. And maybe sometimes with 0.01 Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the superior asset. And this is the asset that everyone goes towards. The financial energy will come towards this asset as long as it stays decentralized and secure. My favorite sentence by Jeff Booth. As long as this is true, all financial energy will always have an easier way to flow into Bitcoin than in any other asset. All price predictions, all predictions of like what will retire you, all price predictions of like what will be 1 Bitcoin worth one day will be true. It's just a matter of when. Will it be 5 years from now, 1 year from now, 20 years from now? That's the big question. And there are so many models out there and so many headlines out there saying like, oh, will we be at $1 million in 2026 or at 2030 or 2035? Probably somewhere around there. Like, I don't know, maybe 2030, maybe 2035, like 2032. I don't know. If I would know, I would have very specific bets for that and make a lot of money with them. But I don't have those bets. I'm just 100% in Bitcoin because I know at some point we will reach it. And so that's why I'm saying 0.1 Bitcoin for me is the perfect amount for most people to aim towards because it's achievable. If you're starting with nothing right now and you are, let's say, in the United States and you are, let's say, my age and you're starting with nothing, 0.1 Bitcoin is achievable. It's reachable. And of course, if you have 0.2 Bitcoin already, get to 0.5 Bitcoin. Why stop? If you have 5 Bitcoin, get to 10. If you have 500 Bitcoin, maybe you can relax, but get to 1,000 Bitcoin. Like, why stop at a number? It's just a number. It's the unit bias all over again. 0.1 Bitcoin I use because it's a nice round number and it triggers something in people's mind. But I could also say 0.09853 Bitcoin. It would make the same logic could be applied. Because at the end of the day, it's just a number. And the more Bitcoin, the better. And we also have maybe to talk a little bit about when it is enough. So because there's this, I believe there are different phases in life. And I talked about it on my podcast multiple times. There's accumulation phases and there's spending phases in life. I personally, right now, I'm just purely in accumulation. Like I am just stacking, I'm just trying to push forward what I can push forward. I don't even have a car. I always love those memes online where like, oh, I'm driving the Toyota Corolla. I'm like, I don't even have, what are you talking? Why do you have a car? Like I have Bitcoin. With that, I just want to say you should get a few more Satoshis each month if you're in the accumulation phase. But also have your life in mind. Like you shouldn't just splurge, but you also should not hunger. Like those memes with like the underwear, like get a fresh pair of underwear. Like it's good for you. You should not be in those ripped underwears. Maybe it's good for you to have 1 or 2 chairs in your apartment. Sometimes it's good to sit down, like we are sitting down right now. The extremes are usually wrong, and the middle ground is usually right. And this is coming from someone that's 100% in Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a good point. Find the balance between and depending on where you are in life exactly. I think it's a really good discussion. Do you think that the unit bias will eventually turn to measuring Bitcoin in sats?
100%. Like that's like it's already happening. There are some exchanges that already have sats. There are wallets, for example, the Blue Wallet and many others that lets you choose between Bitcoin, Satoshis, or dollars or euros, and just lets you choose between those things. And it is a natural progression because it's already weird to say I have Bitcoins. Like maybe I have 0.5 Bitcoin. How can I say it? I don't. If I say I have Bitcoin, like, does it mean I have a whole coin? So at some point, it will just be Satoshis. And this is a natural evolution. As higher the price goes, the less people will identify with a whole Bitcoin. And also there's game theory baked into that because people like to see their balance more in Satoshis than in Bitcoin. It's a lot more fun to see 100 million Satoshis than like 1.5 Bitcoin. 1.5 Bitcoin doesn't sound a lot. 105 million Satoshis, that sounds, wow, you have a lot. It will naturally occur and will naturally come there, but it probably will take 1 or 2 more cycles for the price to go over 1 million. At some point, people just won't associate themselves with Bitcoin and more with Satoshis. Bitcoin will always be the main brand, but I think in the general language, Satoshis will also come in. And also, I think Satoshis will come in more and more when we shift more and more from store of value to medium of exchange. When people start paying with Bitcoin, Satoshis will become way more used, because if you just have a Bitcoin balance and save in that, you don't need like the unit of account that you're using at that in that point is not that important. But if you are spending a Bitcoin every day, smaller and bigger amounts, the unit that you're using in your natural language is all of a sudden very important. And saying to someone, yes, I can pay you 0.000589 Bitcoin is probably not the best way to say it. Better way to say it is like, oh, I'll pay you 10,583 Satoshis. Like that's just comes way more natural. Or Satoshis will naturally come. We don't have to force a rebranding. It will naturally come as we go down the medium of exchange side of things, unit of account side of things.
You see that medium of exchange as a natural progression, even though we in the Western world, a lot of people are still hodling, saying never sell your Bitcoin. But we know in other parts of the world, there's circular economies and they are using it as a medium of exchange.
I already use it as a medium of exchange, earn most of my money in Bitcoin directly. All of my partners on my podcast, actually since 5 days, all of my partners, so I converted the last one also, pays me directly in Bitcoin. There's no fiat involved at all, which is very good because those partners are usually not in Austria. None of them are in Austria. All of them are in America. All of my partners, I think, are in America. So maybe close to America, definitely not in Europe. So this makes it a lot easier because there are a lot of fees involved with the fiat world. And, do we come naturally to this point? How did I get to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange? Maybe the personal story, and then we can see how this will become more natural long term with more people. So the personal story for me was just I opted in a personal Bitcoin story, personal Bitcoin vault with 100% having Bitcoin as a store of value. And then at some point you want to spend them. So you have to use it as money. You're like, oh, okay, how do I spend those Bitcoin now? And then you start being in the community, in the third pillar. All of a sudden you have a community meetup where there is a burger that you can buy with Satoshis over the Lightning Network. And you're like, that's amazing. How do I do that? And all of a sudden you're spending Bitcoin. And then maybe you are working in Bitcoin and all of a sudden you're earning in Bitcoin. And then you're like, wow, okay, I'm earning now. I'm spending now. I'm saving now. I guess I use Bitcoin as money. This is the same thing as for the Satoshis. We don't have to force. I see a lot of people that want to force this medium of exchange things into Bitcoin. We don't have to do it. It's great if you want to force it. It's great if you ask every restaurant, hey, can I pay with Bitcoin here? I usually don't do that because I don't have the endurance for that. But If you do that, that's great. But we don't have to do that because it's a natural progression. Bitcoin is a medium of exchange and it will naturally occur as a great medium of exchange, as it also will occur as the best unit of account. It's the biggest constant in the world. It's the only constant in the world, I would argue, that is always the same. One Bitcoin always equals exactly this one Bitcoin, and nobody can mess with the 21 million supply cap. Nobody can mess with this consensus change. We already see this right now, and most people probably won't even heard about that, how difficult it is between core and nodes, not a consensus change, but a policy change to force and to do. People are split. There are respected people that I love on both sides. And I myself, I'm not fully on either side. I'm like, okay, there are valid points on both sides. And this is really hard. So if anyone comes and say, 21 million cap that can be lifted, no, it can't. You can lift it. You can run a Bitcoin node. You can do and use your own Bitcoin, but this is no longer Bitcoin. It's an alternative coin. Then it's the same thing as Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and all the other things that are just not successful. And this is the very important point to always remember. Bitcoin has consensus rules, and those consensus rules won't be changed, like the block size, like the cap, and all of those things. Long story short, I think, what was the question actually in the beginning? I've completely forgot your initial question.
Well, I think it was about the medium of exchange.
Oh, yes. Yeah, long story short, I do think Bitcoin will stay decentralized and secure, and it will be a natural evolution to be a medium of exchange long term.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We all know that early adopters are going to do quite well. Do you think this will create animosity with later adopters?
Yeah, a little bit. So it naturally does. And we already see that right now. We see that people already are now envy of early Bitcoiners. That say like, oh, how is it fair that I have to pay for Bitcoin at 100,000 and you got in at $1,000? Like, how is that fair? How is it fair that someone, because he heard it on some forum or he heard it on some email list or he heard it on some social media thing early on, gets to have a lot more wealth in the new financial era than I, just because I came later in the game? Or how is it fair because I was later born and I couldn't even afford it because I had no money? All those debates and things will occur. These questions will occur. But guess what? Life is not fair. Life was and will never be fully fair. There will always be inequalities in human life, in Earth. And Bitcoin is the fairest system that we have because it requires actual proof of work to be in that system. And with many other systems, if you have a lot of it, you can actually gain more of it. So this is something I'm very passionate about and was early tweets when I did it before even had starting the podcast, was very passionate about that, where when you have a fiat system, if you have a lot of fiat, it's easy to make more fiat, which is very unfair. That's where we have this huge wealth gaps between people. I often joke, in 2020, the government and central banks printed so much money that they retired Jeff Bezos. They printed so much money that Jeff Bezos was like, enough is enough. I'm going on a yacht right now. With that in mind, Bitcoin can never be manipulated. You cannot make more Bitcoin. Everyone has to either buy it or earn it. And with buying, it's also with money that you have to earn. This is unfair because some people have more fiat because they can have more fiat, but that has nothing to do with the Bitcoin network. We have to look at a Bitcoin and a holistic view. You cannot make more of it. So yes, it is unfair, but at the same time, it isn't. Especially when I see that most people have heard about it very early on. Bitcoin has been in the news, has been on different stages early on. CNBC, the first time they talked about the Bitcoin price was around 2010-11. Reported on it very, very early on. Not in the way they do it now, but most people have heard about. And go through the story with most Bitcoiners, and I have interviewed now almost 600 Bitcoiners. When you go through those stories, almost all of them have heard about Bitcoin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years before they bought it. And this is true with a lot of people. So if you buy later on, that's the price that you deserve. I'm very sorry. You didn't get into earlier. And there are maybe very heartbreaking stories why you didn't get into a Bitcoin or why you maybe lost Bitcoin. And this is also another thing. If you got into early Bitcoin, so let's say you got into 2011, most people that got in there either lost it, they sold it, or they just didn't take it seriously and kind of don't have it anymore because of any other reason. So this whole debate of like, oh, like there's those OG that manipulate Bitcoin and it's so unfair. Yeah, you could have bought Bitcoin at $100. Why did you not? Like what's the reason? Like, what's bothering you with that? Like, you could have bought it, but you didn't, and now you're complaining. So it will definitely make for debates, and we already see that in the European Union. There's always papers like, oh, we have to tax the Bitcoiners because they get so rich, and they're already talking about a $10 million Bitcoin price, and if it goes there, we have to tax them because it's unfair. Like how they are going to get the all those gains and we are not. Yeah, because someone did the homework. Someone killed his own ego, did his homework, and bought Bitcoin at a higher price than they first saw it. Everyone had to go through there, from Michael Saylor to everyone that is into Bitcoin. Everyone had seen Bitcoin at a lower price and could have gotten more. Like, I have never seen an exception to that. I've never seen someone, I bought very low, I put everything in, and I couldn't gotten more Bitcoin if I wanted to. This person doesn't exist, in my opinion. So again, long story short, it is unfair, but so is life.
You know, I think that's such a good point because, yes, life isn't fair. And not everybody gets born into a wealthy family or a wealthy country. Life isn't fair. But one thing you and I are trying to get the word out to everybody who will listen to look at Bitcoin. And then Bitcoiners tend to be, like you mentioned, they're pretty healthy, but they also tend to care about a better world. So we have that hope that Bitcoiners are going to either help or not be, proud and telling everybody else that they're dumb because they didn't get Bitcoin, because we know it took us a while to get Bitcoin. So I'm hoping that as people come into the Bitcoin world, it's going to get better. You have said that kindness is a superpower, and I kind of see that not everybody's kind in the Bitcoin world. You certainly are, but tell us why you call it a superpower.
Before that, I want to get in one more thing because I forgot that kind of, and you reminded me of that, and it's such an important point that Bitcoin is leveling the playing field, and I don't know if you've heard about it. This is a really interesting experiment. If we now think about we die today and tomorrow we are reborn as a random person, and we don't know which person it will be. So if you could be Jeff Bezos, but you could also be someone in India that doesn't have an access to a bank account, and you don't know which one it will be. Which world will you prefer? Bitcoin only world or a fiat only world? In the fiat only world, you could be Jeff Bezos and you could be fine. You could be very well off. Or you could be an Indian kid without a bank account, having a very hard time to climb up the ladder. It's not impossible also in a fiat world, but it's very hard. But you can also live in a Bitcoin world where everyone has access. There's no permission. There's no people in suits saying to you, you can't have a bank account. And this is the big thing with Bitcoin. When someone says, oh, it's unfair, how is it unfair if it levels the playing field? If this is a new system that, from an ethical standpoint, objectively, in my opinion, is better than the other system, this is the most fair, this is the fairest system that we can possibly create. And everyone says that it's unfair. Just didn't do the homework and doesn't understand Bitcoin fully. And so I just wanted to get that out because you reminded me of the playing field, and people have to make that thought experiment of, okay, what if I'm reborn as a random person? What system do I want? And it's a very easy choice in my opinion. And
yeah.
with that, I think it makes it very clear why it is such a powerful thing.
Yeah, that is such a great point. Exactly. If you understand Bitcoin, you know why you'd rather be born in a Bitcoin world. So tell us why kindness is a superpower.
Oh yeah, you are.
I don't get to that.
I'm dodging your questions today. I'm super sorry for that. Kindness. I've learned that a long time ago. In a long time ago, I mean, I'm 26 years old. Nothing is a long time ago, but I've learned that since early in my life that if you're a person, and it's very hard to be kind. It's very hard to be the person that tries to be as kind as possible. You actually have a major advantage because in a world where we have such big egos, do you remember, you probably have seen it, where Trump, JD Vance, and President Zelensky were in the room and they fight it. And you could make the argument when you just see a short clip of it, it was Trump's fault. Like Trump is like, oh, why did he talk like that? Then you zoom out and you see the full, a longer clip and you're like, it's Zelensky's fault. Like, oh, like he did something wrong here. And then you zoom out further and you're like, oh, there was this one reporter that kind of tried to get them all going. And at the end of the day, you're like, nobody is really at fault here. There were just two big egos coming together that couldn't live together. And this is what I see a lot also with the block size war, with the Bitcoin Core versus Bitcoin Knots. There are very big egos on both sides that are very emotional and very aggressive on both sides. And so this opposite of kindness, this having a big ego and like being rude and being very arrogant, this is something that I see a lot, and it's very easy to fall into that. I have it all the time. Every day I catch myself that my ego gets hold of me, that my ego is like, oh shit. And that's why I'm saying kindness is a superpower, because if you can be truly kind to people and give without without expecting something in return, this can really be life changing. But most people aren't that kind. For me, it is super, 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 super hard to be that kind. And the ego takes hold of us. I say that with my strongest belief that this is probably my strongest belief outside of Bitcoin, where if you are an extremely kind person and you're doing the best you can, God will reward you. And this is coming from someone that is not that religious. Kindness is truly a superpower.
Well, I'm sure you are being rewarded, Robin. You kind of remind me. I feel like I'm a kind person, but when I'm really pushed, I can be a little unkind, and that I'm working on always. Because when we're pushed the most, the true person can come out. Not the true person, another side, because there's many sides to us. But I also think that also when we say people get Bitcoin at the price they deserve, that's a little bit harsh. I also think people get Bitcoin when they're ready for it. One of my guests said that, and it's a bit kinder to me. But the other is true, but it's also a little harsh.
It is harsh. It definitely, because if you say you get the price that you deserve, what does this mean? So you didn't deserve it lower? Like if you had Jeff Booth as your uncle and you cannot control who's your uncle, maybe you would have gotten it before. So you're saying you don't deserve Jeff Booth as your uncle? Like, is that what you're saying? So it's kind of a weird saying to say, oh, you don't deserve it right now, or you get the price that you deserve. Because there are a lot of circumstances and situations that we cannot control. And you have to be reminded for all that you have, you should be extremely grateful for, because in another world that has just one variable different to this world, maybe you would be completely somewhere else with nothing that you have right now. So yeah, that brings me back to being kindness, to being grateful for the things that already work, for the things that are already good, to have the bird eye view of the situation and not be involved too deeply in the situation and have the ego battles. I see a lot of ego battles right now on Twitter around the core versus knots thing.
I agree. Just to comment on the core versus knots, do you think there's any real attack vector there? And do you have any thoughts beyond what you've said?
So first of all, for the few people that like have no clue what we're talking about with Bitcoin core versus knots, it's basically do different implementations of a Bitcoin node. And knots has been around for a long time. It has been always like, I think 9 years, 10 years, like I'm not sure, but like it has been around for a long time. And it's mostly been Luke Dashier who has driven that. But in recent history, it has gained a lot of popularity and a lot of support of other people. So there's like egos on both sides now. They kind of say like, oh, like I'm on the right side, I'm on the right side. And also important to note, it's nothing that like there's consensus that every node has to obey to. Otherwise you are on a whole different chain, and there's policy that you have on your own mempool on your full node. And the policies you can decide to a certain extent for yourself, and doesn't change what later gets to added to the blockchain. That just out of the way, 99.999% of both implementation are exactly the same. I don't want to get too deep in the technical levels, because I think most won't understand it, and those who understand it anyways understand it. So why am I explaining it to them? But there are a few variables that you can set and you can do with the knots that you might not be able to do with the core one. And it gives you maybe more functionality. But then at the same time, a core has been around for longer, and a lot of people make that argument that it's maybe the safer choice. And I'm still in the learning phase. Like I want to make that abundantly clear. And I made that tweet right before we got started with the podcast, actually, that I'm not yet decided what I will run on my main Bitcoin node. Today, I switched from core to knots, but not because knots is better or anything, just because I want to learn it. And I myself am a learner. I have to use it. The way more important point with knots versus core is don't fight on what implementation is better. Fight for people having nodes and having like how many nodes are there out there? Like 20, 30,000 that are reachable, maybe a few hidden ones, maybe you have 40,000, 60,000, maybe you have 100,000 nodes. That's not enough. We need more people that run a node. We need 1 million nodes, 2 million nodes, 4 million nodes. And this is the core message that I really want to drive home. We need that second pillar of the wealth is get a full node. If you have no clue about technicalities, get a Start 9 and plug it into your power supply, plug it into your internet, and start it up. It's very simple, and you can very easily do it. If you have technical skills, you can also do it with a Raspberry Pi. I think the Raspberry Pi 5 is the latest model. Costs, I think, $150 right now, something like that, depending on where you are and where you buy it from. And just run that. If you have, I have it right here. You can run your Bitcoin node on an old laptop, like maybe have something like that laying around in your home. So there is you don't have to give any money to run a full node. You can, if you want a nice device, but you definitely 100% should run your own full node. There's like no excuse, and there's nothing that will prove me otherwise. You have to run a full Bitcoin node. And this is the most important message here. And then you can run Bitcoin Core, run Bitcoin nodes, decide what you want to run, dive deep, ask ChatGPT, ask why are people saying this, and just do your own research, Google, listen to the interviews, listen to the people on the node side, listen to the people that are on the core side, and educate yourself. This is the main message. And I get frustrated with those ego battles of like mine is better because you are an abuser. If someone is on Twitter right now and he's kind of looking into Bitcoin and he sees that there are people calling for child porn and things like that and using those in arguments about a technical implementation. And I'm like, is that really productive for Bitcoin? And there's many bad arguments on both sides. I've seen a lot of them on both sides, and I've seen a lot of good arguments on both sides, which also makes it that harder. Like there are many respected people in my view on both sides that have done a lot for our industry already. So I didn't had a lot of thoughts, but I talked a long time here. But it's an important issue.
It is an important issue, and I just want to get to your main message, because I think your main message is part of it, and you can correct me here, is get Bitcoin, go into self-custody, run a node, and then you also got involved with MICROSEED, which is a company that stores our seed phrase on metal. So tell me how that goes.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot. Like I'm very bad in promoting my stuff. I like talking about, and we talked about it before. I always talk about Bitcoin and running their own full nodes, and I forgot that I have a company that has stamping devices. So I just want to make it very easy and quick for people. We talked about the second pillar of Bitcoin, the freedom aspect, and there's many different tools that you have to use to have that freedom. You should have a Bitcoin full node. You should have maybe a signing device or a hardware wallet, however you want to call it. And you should have, if you have a hardware wallet and you want to back it up, you should not do this like this 12 and 24 words. You should definitely not do that on paper because paper burns, paper vanishes when you put it in water. Paper is a horrible storage device for keys. So the best way to store it is titanium. And there are many different solutions. I've used many different solutions. And when Daniel approached me and said like, oh, see, like that's my little jig and what I built. And I was like, that's freaking awesome. Like, how did you come up with that thing? And it's basically just, I'll have it here, explain very, very briefly, like what the whole idea is. We have those titanium very small, and you can put them on here. Like one is already here, so I can put them, and you put the table on there. You have punches with letters and with numbers. You put those punches in. There are two things. You can have two different lines on the thing. You take the hammer, you punch it, and that's it. That's the whole idea. And then you can have, I think, characters on one washer, and you can put the whole seed phrase onto one single washer. So like 24 words on one washer. That's the whole idea of it. And I, I really am very big on that. And Daniel also kind of opened the eyes for me on that. Is if you don't have a full node running, get that first. Before you buy a MICROSEED, get a Bitcoin full node running. That's very important. And get into self-custody. Metal backup, it's the cream on top. This is the thing that you also need and is very, very important, but make sure you do the first steps first, like get a signing device, get a Bitcoin full node, be in the community, be serving. So that's the very important message here, that you should take your sovereignty in the right way. And this is what I hope that I can bring to the table and can bring the message forward to everyone. And of course, yeah. And if you want to buy MICROSEED, make sure to use code Paula, because in that way you don't only get 5% discount, but you also support Paula and the show here. And there's two things that are the most important way you can support the podcaster, Paula, is to watch the episode. Like when there's a video of Paula coming up in your feed, click on it, watch it, and then support her, sending her some Satoshis on Lightning. I don't know if you have something available, or just supporting her products and services that she is engaging with. Those are the things that help Paula out the most, coming from a fellow podcaster. And this is very important because she's doing an amazing job hosting this show.
Holding your Bitcoin in self-custody is an important step towards self-sovereignty, but writing your seed phrase on paper is risky. Paper can burn, fade, or get lost. MICROSEED helps you stamp your seed phrase onto a small steel washer. Buy the device once and use it forever. I love it. It's durable, precise, and easy to transport. Use my link below for 5% off. Now, back to the show. Well, thank you for that, Robin. I really appreciate it. But just for our last question, you've interviewed over 600 Bitcoiners already. What's the biggest lesson?
Oh gosh, I think I could write a book on that. I might do that.
Probably will.
Probably will, yeah. The book that has been in writing since months, and the title is not even decided yet. I think the biggest thing I've learned is the first thing that I kind of said in the beginning is that Bitcoin is a foundational invention, something that is coming once a decade, once a generation, once a whatever the time frame is you're picking. It's so unique. And it might be the biggest foundational invention since the invention of the wheel. I can't think of something that will change our lives more than Bitcoin. And this is what I've learned from most of my guests. 50 other lessons that are really important that I've learned. But if I have to just name one, I will stick with that one because that's super, super, super important.
Yeah. And I think from what I've heard and watched of all your guests, it's changed all of their lives too.
Yeah, 100%. This is something I have the privilege of calling such great people because of my podcast, my friends, because they have come into my life with the podcast and they have gone through the same story with Bitcoin and now we've become friends. And that's why I said, go to those meetups, go to those conferences. You will make Bitcoin friends that you won't believe you can make. It's amazing. So this is the third pillar that I also come towards. So those are the three pillars, and I think you can tell by how much time I'm spending on the second and third pillar of Bitcoin how important those two things are. Even though I see and I want to remind myself always, the first pillar is the one that gets people through the door, and the second and third is the one that keeps them.
I love that. Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you so much for hosting me. And people, don't forget to push that episode out as much as possible. It really helps Paul out.
Thank you. And I'll post links to your X and YouTube below.
Oh, thank you so much.